Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Kurt with Mañana No Mas. Mañana No Mas, also with the Action Leadership Team and Power Sport Academy. If you're just tracking along, other verticals in the WordPress space would include names like Lifter LMS, WP Tonic, things like that, things that we do. So I just got off another live call, consulting, coaching somebody on bringing SCORM to WordPress. So they're going to be bringing their SCORM content, which is primarily game driven, which is pretty cool. But they're going to be bringing that to a WordPress platform through one of my partners, WP Tonic, which is really kind of a fun thing to do. I do a lot of the onboarding with WP Tonic, and I get to meet the clients and bring them in and put them through a process. And so I just got off the live meeting with her and getting her set up. And things have been, I'm not going to say unsettled. What I'm going to say is things have been at the forefront of my mind as we come up on the end of a year, as we come up to the end of another, fiscal for a lot of people. And we take a look at, where we at, how we doing, what's next, how do we be focus driven, how do we use SMART goals, all those things, like all the things that you think of. Like if you've been to the Mañana No Mas page and you've seen some of our courses, you know that these are a lot of things that we not only promote, but things that we try to live in our day-to-day working as a team here at Mañana No Mas. And so regardless of how you feel about the election, chaos, mayhem, world politics, all of that stuff, I'm always driven by, and this is true for people in the WordPress space. So WordPress is a little bit in an upheaval right now. And so there's a little bit of angst and chaos in the WordPress world. And I can remember watching, I think it was 20 Minutes once, 20 Minutes, news TV, right? Mainstream media stuff. But they did a profile on a guy in the Middle East who had a local store. And there's bombings and raids and, Jeeps and Humvees going up and down the street with rifles and all of this stuff. And they're like, we're going to follow Hakeem or whatever his name was. We're going to follow Hakeem to his store, and he's got to open up a store and provide for his family and do these things. And so this guy shows up and he sure enough unlocks the gate, puts the gate up, unlocks the door, goes in and starts opening up his store to do business and serve the community. And ever since seeing that, I wish I could remember the episode. I would share the video or something like that. But ever since seeing that, I've always been, and you may remember this during the pandemic when I was doing my daily lives then, I've always been like, we just got to make it happen, right? Like, and for me, I'm a person of faith. So I say, well, God's always got a way of working things out. Even if we don't like the process, even if we don't like the way it feels at the time, God's always got a way of working things out. And so I've just really come to believe that over the years. And so regardless of how you feel about the election or WordPress or global politics or any of that stuff, I wanted to ask you, how are you feeling at the end of this year, year over year? How are you feeling right now, end of November 2024 compared to end of November 2023? Not how do you feel compared to the guy down the street, not how do you feel compared to the mom in the PTA, not how do you feel against your coworkers in another cubicle, but how do you feel November 2024 in comparison to where you were November 2023? And I got to tell you, for me, I feel a little accomplished. Okay. Last year we had just escaped California and got to Kansas. And so we had to get into a new house, a new region. When I say region, I mean a whole different part of the country, a whole different culture. And so we had to acclimate ourselves to what's it going to look like to be active, productive members of this community in a completely new state portion of the country. There's no ocean where I'm at now, right? I'm not riding my bicycle to the beach anymore. There's things that have changed. And so last year, when I think about my purpose was be positive, get my family acclimated to this new environment, deal with my daughter who had decided to stay in California at the time. But then just a few months after that, it was celebrate and help my daughter acclimate to Kansas as she decided 4 months later to follow us to Kansas. And so there were these things. Now, over the course of the year, we managed to pay off a ton of debt that we had amassed over in California. And then by paying off that debt, put ourselves in a position to be able to buy a house. And so now we went from renters to owners. Our business is growing well. I'm working in multiple verticals, which some people say is crazy, but I've got a public speaking and training vertical. I've got a book publishing vertical with public speaking, and I've got the agency vertical. And under that agency umbrella, I work with folks like Lifter LMS and WP Tonic, and we do a lot of agency projects here at Mañana No Mas, largely connected to taking people's SCORM content and converting it into a WordPress friendly environment for SCORM. So that's a lot of what we do. That is a lot to change in a year. So I say, so that's us, that's me, right? So where am I at year over year? 2024 compared to 23. Where was 23 compared to 22? Where was 22 compared to 21? And so by comparing ourselves to ourselves, we get to see, okay, what was the snapshot at that time? So important to me to understand, where was I really at this mark, at this milestone, where was I really at? And then recognize the distance, right? How far have I come in a prescribed amount of time? Again, not comparing myself to the guy in the cubicle next door, not comparing myself to the other family at church, not comparing myself to the other athlete that rides bicycles in town. Not that, to myself. Have I continued to progress and continued to grow? Even at my age, 57, continuing to learn something almost every day. And so from that perspective, I say things are good. Now I throw in some other things. The Power Sport Academy, which is a branch of Mañana No Mas, just finished up its first cohort with Hero Hub's Dealer Hero organization. It's a 20 group organization. They put dealerships into groups of 20. They coach them, they train them, they help edify these dealers to increase their business. And they reached out to Mañana No Mas, the Power Sport Academy, to provide training to their dealers. And we just finished the first cohort, and it went so well that we're already planning our second cohort to launch in January. And we've already got people signed up paying to take that course. So I couldn't be happier. Boom, check mark. That one's looking good. The other thing is the Marine Retailers Association. Remember at the beginning of this talk, I said, I have multiple verticals, which to some people sounds crazy, but that's the way that I like to do things. So I've got power sports training here, and then I've got marine training, and then I've got my agency work, and that as part of that agency, work with and subcontract under Lifter LMS and WP Tonic. So Marine Retailers Association, that's the marine vertical I was talking about. That's going really, really well. We've got one cohort that is closing out tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be their last session of training, and I get to graduate that class. And then directly after that class, I've got another class that I think is going to be on week 5. I think it's week 5 of a 7-week program. I should probably verify that before class, right? But I think they're on week 5 of a 7-week program, or week 4 of a 7-week program. In any case, that's going really, really well. And we're already planning expansion of that training. Me and the MRAA, we're planning expansion of that training into the oncoming year, into 2025. That's showing every sign of growing. On a less positive note, my allergies are still here. And I wanted to start asking about like purpose. So then I was like, okay, what is the real purpose then? So is it growth? Is it providing? Is it buying the house? Is it getting my daughter a Jeep? Is it, are these the things? Are these the things that are purposeful? And part of me is like, no, that's part of existence, right? That's part of things. Do we exist on a different plane here in the United States than maybe in some other countries? Yeah, we do. But my purpose purpose is different. Purpose is core. Purpose is deep. I'm trying to encourage people to like, what is your real purpose? And so I think my real purpose is when I consult with clients, I really do focus on what does the client need? What's in their best interest? I always talk about use case when I do my live trainings for Lifter LMS. I always say, well, what's your use case? Right. And a lot of times I'll tell people, hey, if your use case doesn't fit using Lifter LMS, don't beat yourself in the head trying to figure out how to morph Lifter LMS to work if there's another tool that would do it better for you. Right. So in a lot of cases, Lifter LMS is the right tool. But in a lot of cases, some cases, maybe it's a little heavy handed, or maybe it's missing a feature that is really tantamount to a use case's success. And in that case, I'll say, hey, there's another tool that does that. See, so in that purpose, the purpose isn't selling the most amount of Lifter LMS licenses. That's not the purpose. The purpose is finding out the real use case for that client and adding the most value to that client in that consulting session. And then I take it another step further, and I think about the things I do that aren't work related. Like, I work with the local mountain bike team. I just became a level 1 coach for NICA, which is a youth mountain bike program where they have mountain bike races all over the country. And our region does mountain bike racing in Kansas. Sounds crazy, but they do have mountain bike racing in Kansas. And so I'm a coach for them, where I get to add value, pour into the lives of young people, and be a good representation for how an adult should be with kids. So I get to do that. Great group of guys run that. And we've just got a female added to the team as a coach last week. So I'm really excited that Sarah has joined the team of coaches, and it gives these kids kind of a diversified approach to who to get mentoring from, who to get counseling, coaching from, and to get better at what they want to do, which is win mountain bike races. But then I think about what happened this weekend at church. And for those of you that don't want to hear about church, I'm going to say it anyway. I'm a person of faith. I participate at church. One of the things I volunteer with is a group of college-age kids called Challenge. This church, I used to work with college-age kids in California, and it was a very small, more intimate group. This group has like 120 kids a week showing up. Now, here's what's interesting about working with college-age kids in a church. They're there because they want to be there. It's different than working with middle school and high school. Middle school and high school, they're there because their parents brought them, right? Their parents dropped them off, and they're there. And they might be cued into what's going on, and they might not be. The college-age kids, they're there because they chose to be. And when you have 100 or 120 young people come to a night every week and share the word and edify each other and encourage each other and become really knowledgeable in the word. I got to say, as a 57-year-old man, I'm actually a little embarrassed sometimes that a kid that's 21 or 22 years old knows scripture better than me. Like, they're all over it. They're all over it. It's such a good group to work with. This last weekend, the church baptized 14 of the members of that group. I want to put that into like terms that make sense. Let's say there's 100 kids that come almost every week, and there's more, but I'm saying like every week there's 100 kids there, right? So let's say out of 100 of normal attendance, 14 of them chose to jump in a tank full of water in front of 1,000 people and get dunked and have it live streamed on the internet and profess their faith in God and Jesus. And I got to tell you, as someone that sits on the sidelines and kind of assists or helps this group exist, it's not, I got to say, if I'm being truthful, there's a little bit of pride in that. There's a little pride going, hey, we just baptized 14 kids. But it's more of a feeling of overwhelm. These kids made a commitment. These kids made a recognition. These kids have made a decision to be more purpose-driven in how they are executing life. If I would have made a decision in my 20s to be more purpose-driven in how I executed life, I can tell you that whole gap between the age of like 18 and 34, 35 would have played out. 18 to like 34 or 35, I was a hot mess. And if somebody would have poured into me the way that I now get the chance to pour into them, my life would have been completely different. And so when I look at that, I think to myself, now that That is a definition of purpose. And so I just ask you, as I try and think of like topics for these lives, what is the purpose? At Mañana No Mas, I typically do a mini series of a subject. For instance, last month, for about 6 weeks, we did topics on anxiety. We really focused on anxiety. We got so much feedback from the anxiety content that we made a website called Anxiety WP to encourage people from WordPress to kind of get in there, maybe create a community if it gets some energy behind it, and kind of come up with a way that we can help relieve people of anxiety, especially those working in WordPress and working with customers and agencies and stuff. And so, is it a long-lived project? I don't know if it'll be a long-lived project or not. We'll have to see if it gains any energy or not. But we got a lot of feedback on the anxiety stuff. For a short time, I'm toying with the idea of maybe doing a short mini series on purpose. How do we identify what our core purpose is? And then how do we examine our actions to know if we are on track to affect our purpose or if we're actually distracting ourselves from our purpose? See, there's a lot of times where I could say I'm putting energy into something that's good, but that good stuff might be off track to being within my purpose. So if my purpose was really to add value to people, make people feel more confident, encourage people, lead people towards a life of faith, towards getting baptized, you don't have to be a pastor for that to be your purpose. I can do that through having my own business, interacting with people, sharing the content that I share, and really edifying and bolstering people that I have a chance to converse with one-on-one, right? So if I take that as my purpose, but knowing that my function is also to keep the lights on in this house, there's a balance to that, and there's a way that that can happen. So how are you doing with your purpose? How do you feel with your purpose November 2024 compared to November 23? And then what did it look like November 22 and November 21? If you can remember those snapshots, and then again, compare yourself to yourself, snapshot to snapshot to snapshot, and see, is there growth? Are you going in a good direction? Do you feel like you have direction? Do you feel like you have purpose? Do you feel like you're affecting people in a positive way? And if all of those answers are yes, more power to you. If those answers are, gee, I really don't know, or I didn't really think about it like that, or no, then I really want to encourage you to either make a cognitive decision to make some changes or reach out and get some help. Doesn't have to be me. Doesn't have to be coaching with Mañana No Mas. Doesn't have to be leadership training with Mañana No Mas. You could buy our book. You could buy the book, right? Action Leadership Team, actionleadershipteam.com. You could take our course on journaling. You could download the digital planner that I use and that I give to people for free. Put that in your digital tablet and begin to track and journal yourself. There's a lot of things that you can do to take a step to get in the right direction. And so if you take those steps, it's kind of hard to say that there wouldn't be growth. If you take some step, it's hard to say that there would not be growth. Again, compare yourself to yourself, not to anybody else. Compare yourself to yourself. Do you feel that you're growing towards your purpose? Do you know what your purpose is? And can you express what your purpose is if someone were to ask you? What if someone asked you, like, let's say you're having an adult beverage with somebody, you're bellied up to a bar at a convention center somewhere, and you're talking about whatever it is you do for a living, and someone says, man, you're knocking it out of the park, this, that, and the other thing. How's everything else going? And if your everything else just centers on what you do to create income, I'm going to say something's missing in your purpose library, right? So identify that core purpose. What is it that really drives you? Where does your energy come from? Where does your positive attitude come from? Where does how you speak to other people come from? And if something makes sense to you, then jump in. If something doesn't make sense to you, if that doesn't have an alignment in your thinking, I encourage you to check out some of the courses we have at Mañana No Mas. A lot of them are free. And, there's things there on journaling or self belief or how to say no or goal setting. There's a lot of stuff in there. And so if that makes sense to you, perfect. Now, if you've heard what I've been talking about and you say, I didn't know he did power sports training, and you just happen to work at a motorcycle dealership, we have the Power Sport Academy, right? Powersportacademy.com. You sign up there. We have excellent, excellent training in the Power Sport Academy. If you were like, I didn't know he wrote a book on leadership, I did write a book on leadership. It's called Action Leadership from the Edge. And you can get a digital copy of that book just by going to actionleadershipteam.com. Actionleadershipteam.com. And in case you're wondering what Black Friday is going to look like for us here at Mañana No Mas, we're doing a real simple thing. Somewhere between like tomorrow night and Tuesday, you'll go to our website. There'll be a pop-up or a banner, and it'll say, get your free digital planner for 2025 here. Completely free. I do this. Let me, I'll go to the cover. So last year when I made it to, it had the cover of my, where is it? Had the cover of my book. I want to go to the front page so I can show the front page. I have it set to always go to the, oh, wow. That's a lot. Let's see. I'm on like page 1100, table of contents. Let's go there and let's go to cover. Shazam. All right, there we go. So this is the Action Leadership 2024 planner. All right. This year we've already made it, obviously, right? We've got it made and it's going to be going up on the website, and that's going to be the 2025 planner. It is all hyperlinked. It is ready to go for you. Let's do this one. This one I decided to keep under the Mañana No Mas banner. So real simple, just the Mañana No Mas 2025 digital planner and journal. The way that I have this planner and journal made is it's got pages, right? And in those pages, you've got full calendars, and then you've got weekly calendars, and then you've got daily calendars. The daily calendar goes from 6 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. The next page asks you what's your daily inspiration. So if you're reading scripture, you would put that in there. If you're doing a Bible read, you would put that in there. But if it's anything, you could be reading a book, right? What book you're reading. Today's priorities, just 2 or 3 lines. What are your priorities? If you got more than 2 or 3 lines to fill in, you got too many priorities. So I got a thing for priorities, and then I got a thing for notes. And then the next page is the daily journal. So each day has a schedule, a place for inspiration and notes, and a journal page. And then by putting it in that order, we're able to do the planning and the journaling all kind of together. And it's digital, so it's searchable. And the whole thing is hyperlinked. So if I push a date in January, it goes to that page. If I push a date in March, it goes to that page. If I push February, it goes to that month in view page. We've been doing this now for 3 years, where we give away the planner. And I think this is my 4th planner. Yeah. So I did 22, 23, 24, and now 25. And so 23, 24, and 25, I have given away for free for the last 3 years. And we do that with Black Friday, because Black Friday is the most logical time to give you a planner that would start on January 1st. So we give away the planner. And then as a bonus to the free planner, I'm giving people that download the planner free access to the Jot It Down journaling course. Because, just going to say it, it sounded weak to me at first to be into journaling. I was not someone that journaled. And then a few years ago, Dan Martell sent me a journal. I signed up for one of his courses, and Dan Martell sent me a journal. And I thought, well, Dan sent it, I might as well try it. Well, let's see what happens. Game changer. Game changer. Turns out for me, I'm the kind of person, if I write down what I'm going to do every day, the act of writing it down, physically writing it down, the act of me writing it down seems to put it into more of a commitment mind frame. And I'm able to be consistent and knock things out. And that's, people ask me, how do you juggle 3 or 4 different verticals? How are you running like 4 companies at the same time. Well, I journal and I plan and I time block myself so that I'm able to do different things at different times. And believe it or not, there are times during the week where I don't schedule a thing, and that's on purpose. And that's when I go to the gym or I go mountain biking or I do things physically to create that balance and that positive attitude that I need to keep executing at a high level. So, I've probably talked more than I need to today. We're at 26 minutes now in this talk. So I'm going to start to wrap this up. Here's my thing: purpose driven. Purpose driven. I put answers float to the top. If we go back to that scenario where I said you're bellied up to the bar at a convention center, something to do with work, and someone says, "Hey, what do you do besides work?" And you struggle to come up with a good answer, or it's why I watch Netflix with my wife, or me and my hubby go, for beers and burgers on Saturdays. Like, if that's the answer, that is horribly empty. Don't take offense. I'm just being blunt. If your answer is something like we Netflix and chill, or we don't really do anything, or I'm not really a hobby person, if those are the answers, I really want to encourage you to apply yourself, find purpose. We are more Jack. What is Jack's last name? Jack from WP Fusion. What is his last name? We just interviewed him last week on the WP Tonic show. And he said that living in Germany to him was a paradigm shift from living in America, because in Germany, a lot of people that he's friends with have no idea what he does for a living. He has no idea. And his words were something similar. I don't know if it's an exact quote, but his words were I'm a lot more interesting as a person than I am what I do for a job. I'm a lot more interesting as a person than what I do for a job, which tells me that Jack is a really good person, and he is able to add value to people or add value to life and a fervor for life that's outside of what he does to create revenue. And I think a lot of people in European countries have a lot of that mentality. Part of the reason I am so infatuated with Italy is that the culture in Italy is so different compared to the culture in America. In Italy, I had relationships and people were friendly and shared recipes and dinners, and we would go out and do things. And in America, people drive up to their house, the garage goes up, they drive in, the garage goes down, and you never see them again, right? Until they get up, the garage goes up, the car pulls out, the garage goes down, and they leave. Like in America, a lot of people are under house arrest. And in other countries, people walk the neighborhood and stop at cafes and have a different elevation of life outside of the office. And so maybe that's where this inspiration comes from. I don't know. But I encourage you, identify a real root deep inside purpose, and then examine the things you do every day and see what aligns with that purpose, right? There's nothing wrong with making an income. There's nothing wrong with revenue. I highly advise for it. I would love to grow Mañana No Mas and the work we do at the Power Sport Academy and the work we do in the marine industry. I would love for all of those things to grow. I would love to do more public speaking gigs. But here's the deal. As I do that stuff, the work that I do hands-on in Mañana No Mas gets delegated to more team members, right? So I keep the balance and I keep things going, and I still time block blank spaces of days where I can go mountain biking or take the dog to the dog park, because that is important. My time on Monday nights working with the college age group at church, that is important, right? Going to church on Sunday and watching 14 kids get baptized, that is important, right? So when I think about purpose, what is being purpose driven? It's not always about work. We got to find avenues outside of our revenue that give us drive and purpose and energy. And so that all said, I sure hope that you have something great planned for Thanksgiving. We are extremely blessed this year. We are opening up our home and having a few students over that don't go home for the holidays. So instead of being under house arrest in their dorms, they're going to come over. They're going to have some smoked brisket, some turkey, some side dishes, some salads. We're going to hang out, watch some stupid Hallmark movie or something like that, and just enjoy the company of others and really try to make the best of it. I hope that you have something similar planned. I hope that you're going to see friends, family, something like that for the holiday. As the year winds down, I really want to encourage you. Take a look at your purpose. Take a look at how you're spending your time. Take a look at what you do outside of what feels like busy work, and just make sure that you're executing on something. Make sure that you're executing on something. Don't be the person bellied up to the bar at a convention center that has no idea what their purpose is. Because at the end of the day, that person is sad. That person is not driven. That person is not clicking forward. Okay. And people might get offended when I say that. But maybe if you're offended by hearing that, it's either true or you do have a purpose. You just haven't identified it yet, and you're not identifying it outwardly, right? And so maybe that offense, maybe that feeling of offense is like, no, I have a purpose, but you just haven't figured out a way to articulate it yet or answer the question. So that's that, folks. It's Tuesday. I don't know if I'm going to do anything on Wednesday or not as far as lives go. I've got classes to teach tomorrow, like I said, for the marine industry. And then we've got to start preparing for the meal we're going to serve up on Thursday. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday week. If you're not, I pray that there's a change that comes that helps you to make it a positive week. And as we finish out this year, try to think about how can you finish strong. If you don't have goals and you're interested on how to set goals, you can reach out to me. You can take a look at the courses at Mañana No Mas. You can set up a consulting call. I am here to help and to drive value to others. Have yourself a wonderful day, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.